Over on the ITV Sport channel now, Basketball Unlimited brings you all the results and highlights of league games. Here on ITV1 tonight with Trevor McDonald reports on the case of the Canadian teacher acquitted of sexual offences and talks to ex-New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Tonight, School for Scandal, the interview every parent should see.
Did you not think I am kissing a 16-year-old pupil? This is totally unreasonable behaviour for a teacher.
Looking back, I do feel that way, but at the time I didn't see it that way.
How did this teacher slip through the net?
Do you pose a risk to children?
I don't think I do. I don't target young boys.
The shocking confessions of Amy Gehring.
We watched a little bit of the film, but ended up kissing and ended up having sex.
Plus, a night in New York.
They're going to expect me to have a horse and a charger, you know, and they're going to wonder, where's my castle?
The man the Queen will not let down.
I take the knighthood for the people of the city. The relationship that I feel to the Queen and the people of England is one of great and tremendous gratitude.
Good evening. The case of supply teacher Amy Gehring has raised profound questions for parents and teachers alike. Although she was acquitted last week of sexual offences against underage schoolboys, Miss Gehring had already been branded a risk to children. In an exclusive interview for this programme, she admits to an earlier sexual relationship with a 16-year-old schoolboy. So how and why was she allowed to carry on teaching? And is Britain's education system failing our children? Fiona Foster's report contains some sexual references.
If a child's school years were ever about innocence, last week's high-profile court case of the supply teacher accused of having sex with her pupils finally proved that they are no more. 26-year-old Amy Gehring was accused of seducing 3 of her underage pupils. During the trial, graphic details of her intimate and bizarre relationship with the school children were heard. But the verdict, when it came, was not guilty.
Amy's thanks go to her barrister, Andrew Thompson, the court staff for their kind consideration throughout the trial, and of course a special thanks go to the members of the jury.
What the jury didn't know was this wasn't the first time that Amy Gehring had been investigated for sexual misconduct with pupils. If she thought the verdict would bring her public vindication, she was wrong. Far from being seen as the victim of false allegations, now she was being painted as the woman who got away with it.
I'm guilty of being too friendly and too naive and stupid.
I think that's all you're guilty of.
Yes. I don't target young boys.
Do you pose a risk to children?
I don't think I do.
Amy Gehring was raised in the small Canadian town of Ottaville in Ontario. Born to wealthy farming parents who were devout Christians, her childhood was strict but happy.
I did go to church every Sunday. From when I was little, I had to go to Sunday school. I wasn't allowed to date until I was 16. So when I did finally meet my long-term boyfriend, I think I was more prepared for a relationship at that point.
When her boyfriend ended the 5-year romance, she decided to apply for teaching work in the UK. The recruitment company that caught her attention was Time Plan.
They sent over a couple of people to interview candidates. I think they must have interviewed at least 150 people at my Faculty of Education. So they were doing their best to try and recruit us at that point.
She arrived in the UK in August 2000. Within a week, she was assigned to her first teaching position.
I thought I was going to be there to teach biology, which is what I'm trained to teach, biology and environmental science. But I found out that all too quickly that I was the chemistry teacher.
Did you feel confident about teaching chemistry?
No, not at all, because chemistry was probably my least favourite of the sciences. I'm a biology teacher, not a chemistry teacher.
What else were you asked to teach?
I taught everything during my time at the UK. I was expected to cover every single subject in every lesson, everything and anything I was put into. PE, German. I don't speak German.
As Amy Gehring tried to settle into her new school, she was shocked by the behaviour of some of her pupils.
Some of the girls right away, in the very first lessons, were terrible to me right away. I mean, they told me to various rude things, and they wouldn't listen to me, and they giggled and laughed in their own little corners. And I just thought they were quite rude.
What about the boys?
The boys were very interested in me and quite sexual in their comments and remarks right from the beginning. It got to the point where they were asking me things like, "Oh, miss, will you me?" And no matter what I wore, it was still the same. Because I remember one day I said to myself, okay, I'm going to wear a jumper up to my neck, and I wore a long skirt. And that day I was so shocked because I went into the classroom, and before the lesson, the one boy had actually put up his hand, and I thought he had a legitimate question. But he had said, "Miss, you look sexier every day." And I said, "Excuse me?" And then he didn't repeat it. He said, "Miss, will you me?"
But almost immediately, Amy Gehring began a friendship with a 16-year-old pupil called Jason. Things began to get out of hand at a parent-teacher social event. Tell me about the parent-teacher wine and cheese evening.
There was glasses of wine and little nibbly type foods, and I was eating a few of the nibbly type foods and having wine and mingling with the teachers, and there was some prefects there and the parents and just chatting. And I didn't have that much to drink, but because I didn't eat all day, I felt quite sick. So at one point I had to leave because I was feeling headachy and I did not feel good. So I left and sat outside.
And what happened?
I was sick. Some of the kids were out there, came out and were around me. And Jason came out. And somehow we ended up kissing.
I mean, did you not think, here I am, a woman in my mid-20s, I've got drunk at the parent-teacher cheese and wine evening, I've thrown up on the school steps, I'm kissing a 16-year-old pupil. This is totally unreasonable behaviour for a teacher.
Looking back, I do feel that way, but at the time I didn't see it that way.
So you invited this same 16-year-old, Jason, round to your house. So what was the invitation?
I asked him to come over to watch a film. I didn't think he would come.
And when he did come, what happened?
I was shocked, but he came and we watched a little bit of a film, but ended up, again, kissing and ended up having sex.
Within weeks, Amy Gehring was seen kissing another boy, a 15-year-old pupil at the same school. She was suspended. Police were called, but the investigation was dropped when the younger pupil refused to press charges. Time Plan have a handwritten statement written by you on the 11th of October saying, "I did not have sex with Jason, nor did he visit me at my house. I've no idea why he'd make it up." And the other boy of 15 who you kissed, you said, "I have never had an inappropriate relationship with him. I have nothing to conceal from anyone."
The 15-year-old one, I just can't even believe that. Okay, I can now, but I couldn't believe at the time that I was shocked because I thought, what's going on? I didn't really think I did anything wrong with him. Jason, I was more scared about.
You knew you'd done wrong with Jason?
At that point, yeah. I wasn't purposely trying to deceive them. It was because I was scared.
When you write a statement saying, I did not have sex with Jason, nor did he visit me at my house, and it's a lie, you are purposely trying to deceive them.
Well, at the time, I didn't think I was doing it at the time because of that. It was because I was scared. I wasn't trying to be deceptive.
Amy Gehring was called to a meeting with Surrey Police and her employer Time Plan on November the 3rd. There, she was explicitly warned to keep her distance from pupils. Didn't you think, after this meeting, when you'd had sex with one pupil, you'd kissed another, you'd had to lie your way out of it, you'd been warned of your behaviour, that maybe this is the end of the line for me, I am not cut out to be a teacher?
I did at that point. I didn't want to go home, though, and look like I was a failure to my family and friends who were expecting me to stick it out.
You realised at that stage you were basically unfit to be a teacher?
I think so. Looking back now, I think I did.
Surrey County Council also decided that Amy Gehring was unfit to teach. In a letter to Time Plan, the council warned that if placed in another school, she may pose a risk to children. But Time Plan didn't sack Amy Gehring. Instead, they gave her another chance. As we'll see, the results would be disastrous.
I have no memory of sex occurring in that toilet.
Do you know how bad and sordid this sounds?
I do. Looking back now, I do.
Contact your local Fiat dealer to book a test drive in the new Fiat Stilo. When it's time for a new mobile, just head for The Link and today's latest handsets. It's the only place to check out the new Samsung Cool Blue A400 because you can't buy it anywhere else. It's only at The Link now.
At The Link it's easy.
Last night he won 32 grand, but then partied all night.
We drank a lot of things.
Tonight he's still recovering, and then it hits him. This is worth a lot of money.
An orrery is a mechanical model of what?
Hangover Millionaire, after Tonight with Trevor McDonald on ITV1.
Amy Gehring's behaviour at the first school in which she taught went unpunished. And despite the warning, she was placed at other schools, a lapse in the system which would have serious consequences.
Amy Gehring's employer's Time Plan had been warned she might pose a risk to children, but one of their regional directors failed to act. So Amy Gehring was allowed to continue teaching. She was placed in another school, and here, despite the advice she'd been given by the police and Time Plan, she started to socialise with pupils, acting in a way which would later be described in court as wholly inappropriate for a teacher. She became friends with a gang of 15-year-old pupils, including 3 boys who were later referred to in court as boys A, B and C. As well as shopping trips and sleepovers, they attended parties together, where they drank alcohol and flirted. What was your relationship then with boy A?
We started talking and we became friends. We chatted on the phone. I became friends with him through the other girls. A lot of the girls that I became close to had crushes on him and liked him. And he was proud to be in that situation. He liked it.
Did you find him attractive?
He was nice looking, he was popular, and they were fun to be with at that point.
So you had given him your mobile phone number, even though you were expressly told not to?
That's right.
Did you like this boy?
Yeah, I liked him.
Did you kiss him?
I kissed him, yes, but it was at a New Year's party. Just like any of the other girls were kissing him at that point.
But any of the other girls? You're talking about 15-year-old girls.
I know that
You're
now.
not one of the girls. You're his teacher.
I was one of the girls at that time.
You were never one of the girls.
I was.
The evidence in court centred on a New Year's Eve party hosted by one of the pupils. By early evening, Amy Gehring, like the children she was with, was drunk. Did you argue with boy A that night?
Eventually, I argued with him.
About what?
He was ignoring me all night, which was unusual because we were close friends at that time. And he had been kissing lots of the girls and just acting really drunk, I suppose. And I wasn't very happy because he normally was more attentive and wanted to chat with me more.
So you were jealous that he was...
I wasn't jealous, I was just disappointed that I was being ignored when normally I wouldn't have been ignored by him.
And then you got drunker.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up with boy C in the toilet.
Yeah, originally it was boy C, another girl, and myself in the toilet, and I had been sick on the girl's arm. And then we were talking. She went out. She had to go home early. I was told after, the next day, that that's when it was alleged that I had had sex with this boy. But I have no recollection of sex.
And you have no memory whatsoever because you were drunk?
I have no memory of sex occurring in that toilet.
Do you know how bad and sordid this sounds?
I do. Looking back now, I do.
And what happened the next day then?
I texted him right away and I said, "What happened last night? Is it true that we had sex?" He texted back and said, "I think so. I can't really remember." And I texted back and I said, "Well, I don't remember this at all."
And so what did you do?
Because I wasn't on any type of birth control at that time, I thought that I don't want to be pregnant, so I went, not New Year's Day, but the day after, and I took the morning after pill.
When you realised that here you were relying on a 15-year-old to tell you via a text message on a mobile phone that you had sex with him in a toilet at a party, did you not think, I am not fit to be a teacher? I am in the wrong profession. I have behaved appallingly.
That was the turning point. I wasn't their teacher at that point. I was thinking of myself as being a part of their group. I was no longer their teacher. I never had any intention of going back to the school. So I didn't think of myself as their teacher.
On February the 16th, Amy Gehring was arrested by police and was later charged with 5 counts of indecent assault. The issues thrown up by her case are likely to last long after Amy Gehring herself has gone back to Canada. For parents, the most worrying one must be that while our chronic teacher shortage continues, Britain will carry on trawling the world for young recruits, some of whom could be as manifestly ill-suited to teaching in British classrooms as Amy Gehring was. Are you remorseful?
I do regret things I've done. Of course I do now. I was stupid. It was a part of my life that I look back on now and can't believe that that was me back then. It was like a complete different person.
Do you think that person now is gone?
I do.
Could it ever happen again?
No.
How can you be sure of that?
Because I'm not going to teach again. And I just don't target young boys. I had no intention of ever putting myself in those types of situations again.
Amy Gehring, who says she now plans to give up teaching and return to Canada. Time Plan, the recruitment agency involved in this case, has admitted a failure in its own internal communications, which, despite the warning, resulted in Miss Gehring being accepted for other teaching placements. The officer responsible for the error has been sacked. Time Plan says it accepts full responsibility for the failure and apologizes unreservedly. We also asked Time Plan to comment on Amy Gehring's claim that she was asked to teach subjects for which she was completely unqualified. They say that in Surrey, 85% of Miss Gehring's time was spent teaching her specialist science-related subjects. But from time to time, she was expected to cover for other teachers. They call him the Mayor of America, and later this week, the Queen will interrupt her mourning for Princess Margaret to award him an honorary knighthood. Rudy Giuliani held New York together after September the 11th. He did it so well that there's speculation now that he might be heading for the White House. This weekend, I went to New York to meet the former mayor. Mr. Mayor, have you got sufficiently far away from the events of September the 11th to look back and to try to put them in some sort of perspective?
A little bit. I think I have more of a sense of what happened now, but I think it's going to take years to really put it in perspective.
What were those first few chaotic hours like?
It was the first realization of it was a sense of we're living through something that we've never lived through before, and at least Americans had never lived through before.
And for you personally, this was dangerous territory. I mean, you were almost buried alive.
I was. I didn't know it at the time, though. I mean, at the time, when I first arrived at the scene and we walked close to World Trade Center 1, and I saw things falling off the building. And then when I looked up, I saw a man jump out of the 100th floor of World Trade Center 1. And at that's the point, when I saw the man jump, that I said to the police commissioner, we're in uncharted territories. Nobody's ever gone through this before. And very quickly, my first analogy was the Battle of Britain and the bombings that took place on a city much like New York and how people dealt with that.
But the absolute horror of seeing people jump from such heights, how long does it take to heal the memory of those things?
I think it takes the rest of your life. I don't think until I die, I don't think I'll ever lose the memory of the man jumping from the window or then the other people jumping. And I don't think you ever lose those feelings. I mean, they're always with you.
Now, you're coming to London to receive an honorary knighthood from an unelected head of state. That seems to run counter to all the principles on which the sort of American Constitution is established.
You know the way I see it? I'm receiving a knighthood, but I'm not receiving it. All of the members of the fire department, the police department, the emergency services, I believe that I'm receiving it for them. That's the way I see it. And receiving it from a nation that was our best friend.
I hear all that, but what does it mean personally to you?
For a kid from Brooklyn?
To Rudy Giuliani.
It means I can't go back to Brooklyn, without being teased. You got to understand, in Manhattan, where we are right now, this is very much understood. But in Brooklyn, the idea of being a knight, they're going to expect me to have a horse and a charger, and they're going to wonder, where's my castle? That's the kind of things that they'll ask me.
Rudy Giuliani, who will receive his honorary knighthood from the Queen at Buckingham Palace on Wednesday. Coming up on Thursday's edition of Tonight, as the government launches its new MMR campaign, the results of our latest opinion poll. Are Britain's parents being won over? That's on Thursday at 7:30. But that's all for now. From all of us here, good night and thank you for watching.
Last time on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, David Martin ended the show on £32,000, but only has one lifeline remaining. How much further will he go? Find out next.
And that's followed by the final part of The Swap.